Well, hey, everybody. Happy Thursday and happy New Year's Eve from the hub, right? Just hanging out with Walt Disney right behind me, the partner statue. Yeah, I'm sitting here in the middle of the hub. I hope you're doing well. We have Mike in the Midwest coming up here for your Thursday. We're going to be talking New Year's Eves in the past, how I've celebrated, even as a kid, as a high school kid, and recently. So we will talk about that. But I hope you're doing well. Hope you have some fun plans, at least some fun food, maybe a drink or two to have at your house this evening, and maybe watch the empty Times Square and the ball drop. We've all dropped the ball in 2020. So what do we need to do? Anyway, what's up with that focus? My glasses always look crooked as soon as I turn on the camera. I am so not made for the camera. Everything moved video, but I preferred when we were just audio. Oh, why is that moving? I think it's because the background's moving. Okay, well, we'll see. All right, let's do Mike in the Midwest. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody who's watching on YouTube. Welcome to episode number 28 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for our amazing patrons of the Be Our Guest podcast. I am Mike Rollman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast since 2008. Since March 2008, which means here in a few months, we'll be celebrating our 13th birthday. Holy cow. Thank you for being a part of this journey, and thank you sincerely for allowing us to keep the show going through the year 2020. We'll be looking back on that year here within a mere set of hours. Won't be too long now as we're recording this show on Thursday, December 31st, 2020. That's right. It is New Year's Eve. How are you doing? I hope you are doing well. And I hope that you have, plans for a fun New Year's Eve, even if it's just at your house and kind of just hanging out and seeing what's going on. I did see that they're getting everything ready in Times Square, which to me, this is like the perfect year for Times Square because you don't have all the freezing people out there standing out there in the cold, shivering, looking like they have to go to the bathroom, but they're squashed in there so much they can't. But, we'll get to watch that big crystal ball drop. We'll get to see the 2021 sign light up at midnight. And, hopefully we can all dream great dreams for 2021 because I think 2021 is going to be great. I have a special shirt that I'm going to wear that reflects 2021. And I'll have that on tonight. And I'll try to go live on Instagram. So watch my Instagram account. We'll have some fun on there as well. So again, hope you're having a great wrap up to your 2020. Mere hours to get those things done that you wanted to this year. I know personally, got to pay the property taxes. No better way to celebrate New Year's Eve, right, than to write that big check for your property taxes. So if yours are due, don't forget about that. Hey, I'm just excited for next year. We're going to make it awesome. I think travel is going to pick back up. I think Walt Disney World is going to get to, and we're seeing this already, right? Today or tomorrow, is the first day that we'll have the park hopper option available, modified. You can't just go whenever you want. You got to go after 2. And you got to go to your selected park first. There's some rules, but it's a step. We're moving in the right direction. We've gone from 25% to 35% capacity. I think as we get into 2021, things will continue to move in that direction. So let's just cross our fingers and hope. And let's hope that vaccine does well and that everybody stays safe and healthy and that we can keep moving in the right direction. Now, before we hop into some of my memories, and I have various memories of how I've celebrated New Year's Eve over the years, I want to reflect on last week's show, get some of the comments back from our Patreon page at patreon.com/Be Our Guest podcast. And last week, of course, it was just about Christmas time as we recorded and talked last Wednesday. And I talked about Santa is here and all the excitement of being a little kid and, waking up in the morning and seeing that Santa had visited and left the gifts under the tree, falling asleep in your room with the Christmas lights right outside your window, kind of giving an amazing glow to your bedroom window that you don't have any of the other times of the year. And I want to hit some of those comments. So again, our good friend Andrea Gartland over on the Patreon. Thank you for being a patron and happy New Year's to you. She said, I love this last installment. And I must tell you, I'm also a fan of the multicolored lights on the tree. And I have 3 strands left out of 6 from 1993 when I got married that have the little flower looking caps on them. Oh my gosh. So I mentioned that last week that I talked about that we had the multicolored lights on our artificial Christmas tree growing up, and they were the kind that had those plastic petals. They looked like flowers. And it seemed like back then that was just like the Christmas light. Everybody that I knew, at least here in the Midwest, had those kind of lights on their trees, except for the folks. There were other ones. Some people had the bubble lights, like little candles that bubbled up. Oh my gosh, I wish I had some of those now. And I know somebody sent me a link that they do make replicas, which I'm going to have to look into. And also some people actually had, my grandparents were this way. They had they looked like the outside opaque big bulb lights on their indoor Christmas tree. And they got hot. So it's a wonder my grandparents had a house. It's a wonder we survived the 80s when I look back at the stuff we did for decorations and stuff like that. Craig Burnett, my good friend, thank you so much for being a patron down in Tennessee. Says, finally listened to the podcast. I was a huge fan of WDW Today for the same reasons. The hosts all had different personalities and perspectives, and as a listener, you felt like you were part of it. I think you guys do a great job with this on BOGP, and that's a big reason I gravitated to your podcast when I first heard of it many years ago. The topic never matters. It's really just the interaction with you guys and doing the interviews. It's just natural and welcoming. Well, thank you so much, Craig. That's what we always try to make it. I truly am really good friends with Ricky and Pam. Pam, I think of Pam as kind of like a big sister, and I think of Ricky as like a little sister, if you haven't noticed. We are definitely family. We've vacationed countless times together at this point, cruises, Walt Disney World, other places around the country. And, I give Ricky a hard time as I would any little sister. I love her. But I got to set her straight sometimes. Right. And Pam is like the one that's calm and collected and wise. And I have to listen to her guidance because sometimes I'm over optimistic. I'm over eager to try new things and stuff like that. So I think it's a good mix. I respect them so much. They're great podcasters. They're better people. And we just have a good time putting the show together. But yeah, you're right about WDW Today. They all had a role to play in the show. It was amazing. Matt was hosting everything and he kind of wanted to keep things moving. Newell was just behind the scenes, but when he spoke up, you had to listen, but he put everything together. He was the producer. Len was just smart. He just had all the smart stuff. And, Scopa's the sensei, right? He's the wise old man that's been to the top of the hill. And when he speaks, you better listen because he's got the experience. Very fun. Megan Green and her crew. Hope you're having a great New Year's Eve, and I hope your boys are getting ready for an amazing, noisemakers and hats tonight. I can't imagine what your house will be like. Says, I totally agree with your view on Christmas decorations. The more tinsel garland, the better. And we still have exclusively C9 bulbs, the opaque big bulbs on the front of our house. They aren't easy to find anymore, but we still have them. Megan, thank you. I didn't know what they were called. I just call them the big, colorful, opaque bulbs. But C9, now I have reference. Next year, we have hope here in St. Peters, Missouri. I'm going to go out and look. All right. I hope you all are doing well. So thank you for the feedback. If you have feedback, just go by patreon.com/BeOurGuestPodcast and put it under today's show because I want to hear the memories you have. What was New Year's Eve like for you growing up? So as I reflect back on this, I've had various experiences in my 47 years of life on New Year's Eve, but I'm not going to hit them all. Of course, I'm going to hit about three. First, I'm going to talk about when I was like preschool age, maybe first grade, kindergarten, that young age where you don't really do anything, but you do have memories of New Year's Eve. So when I look back at those times, I think I've mentioned this on the show many times. My dad growing up, he was an entertainer. He was a drummer. He was always in bands. I know I'm the son of a hippie. Both of my parents were hippies, and that's it's just how it was. So I got to tell you this, for Christmas, this past Christmas, my dad gave me the greatest gift, and it was super special, and I'm still enjoying it right now. So he comes over on Christmas morning to watch the girls open their gifts and hang out and stuff. My wife makes biscuits and gravy and we have breakfast and so forth. And so we exchange gifts, and my dad gives me a 1 terabyte external hard drive, which I thought was awesome, right? I'm always a tech geek. I'm like, yeah, more storage. Awesome. He's like, but I looked at the box and I'm like, this thing's been opened. So I asked him about it a little bit, and he's like, no, the gift isn't the hard. Well, the gift is the hard drive, but he said the gift is what's on the hard drive. So what my dad's been doing over the past year since he's not doing the Rams right now because of COVID, because they don't want him traveling over the country and going into the booth. What he's been doing is going through shoe boxes full of old snapshots from my childhood. And he has scanned these, one by one. He's hand scanned all these photos for my, my entire childhood, which I'm going to post some here in the Patreon. And it's so fun to look back, and it's got over 1,400 pictures on this hard drive from my childhood. Now, I think I've mentioned on shows past that my parents divorced when I was just starting college. And when that happened, a lot of my stuff just kind of scattered to the wind, right? I don't have a whole lot of pictures of my childhood. I don't have a lot of my stuff from my childhood. I have a few things like high school yearbooks and ball gloves and, sports equipment, stuff like that. But I just don't have a lot of those things that obviously you can tell with this show, I'm very nostalgic. I like, reliving times from the 80s and 90s and 70s and so forth. And so to get this gift was remarkable. So over the past few nights, I've been plugging the external drive into my MacBook and, just going through the pictures one by one. And I'm seeing shots of my great grandparents over in Alton, Illinois, and I'm there and like, I'm with like one of my toys I got for Christmas that year. It was a crane set. And I hadn't thought about that crane set in 45 years, probably 43 years or something. I love that crane. And I saw it in the background. Incidentally, Disney content here. Because what I've been doing is not only like excited to see like my great grandparents, because I spent a lot of time with them. Both of my sets of grandparents were instrumental in my childhood. I had both my grandmas and both my grandpas for a very long time into middle and high school. So I spent many times with them. So it was good to see pictures of them. And my dad also included pictures of his parents, my grandma and grandpa Rallman, when they were teens growing up in Kentucky, dirt poor. But you saw them on their wedding day and so forth. It was fun. But one of the things I saw at my great grandparents' house in Alton, Illinois, I mentioned this on the show. Do you remember when I went down in early December, I mentioned that I went to 50s Primetime Cafe with the Gardners and had dinner. And right over Scott Gardner's shoulder, I told him, I said, look at those poodles. And there were like porcelain poodles, like a mom poodle and like 3 baby poodles, all puffy, that had little chains like connecting them. And I told him, I said, yeah, I have seen those before somewhere. And I have not seen those things since I was a small child, but I couldn't place it. I'm like, but I know somebody in my life had those. I've seen those before. As I thought about it, I think I thought about it a lot on the plane ride home. I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, I've seen those things. And if you went to the studios this Christmas, they had gigantic ones right there at the corner of Echo Lake and Hollywood Boulevard, kind of by the Walt statue with the camera. And so these things, like I saw them twice, because I saw them in 50s, like, it's so weird, right over Scott's shoulder. We walk out of 50s. I'm like, oh my God, now I see them again. They're huge. Like they're right here. Like somebody is telling me about these poodles. And then we went online and somebody told me what they were called and so forth. They're very trendy and they were very expensive. I look on the shelf at my great grandparents' house in Alton, Illinois. Bam, there's the poodles. So you know what? I mean, again, I'm getting older, but I think the greatest gifts are gifts of thoughtful things, and it was very thoughtful for my dad to take the time to scan those pictures. And I've really, really enjoyed going through them and reliving, seeing all the stuff like my great grandparents' house, my house growing up when I was preschool age over in Florissant, my little bitty house. And then it showed our house when I moved in middle school. We built a house in a place called Fox Lake. And I got to see the pictures of that actually during the construction. And I'm standing in my room. I got to see my Commodore 64 that I ran a BBS on. I took some random picture of that, a picture of me with my green machine, big wheel, just stuff like that. So I appreciate my dad taking the time to do that. But getting back again, I ramble and I apologize. But getting back to New Year's Eve when I was a kid, when I was young, like preschool age, I remember that a lot of times we would stay with my grandparents. Like they would come over to the house and just kind of hang out with us. And we'd play, games. I had like a spit and sin, a sit and spin, the little thing you'd sit on and you're, go around in circles. We just play kind of the games. We didn't do anything real special on New Year's Eve, like in preschool age. We'd watch TV and so forth. I doubt we stayed up late enough to watch Dick Clark or anything like that. But the thing I do remember, since my dad was in a band, He was always playing a gig on New Year's Eve, whether it was at Meadow Park Steakhouse where they were the house band, or sometimes on New Year's Eve they did other events. And my mom would always go with him to those events on New Year's Eve. But and this is so dumb, but this is what my sister and I, she's 4 years younger than me, we would get so excited because when we woke up on New Year's morning, not only did you get to watch the big parade, right? The Rose Bowl parade, a Tournament of Roses parade out in California. We always watch that, but it was, I don't know, like you would have thought this was a big deal, like getting Christmas presents. My parents would bring us home noisemakers and hats. And my sister would get like the little tiara that you wear. And that was always like the coolest thing. So all New Year's Day, I'd wear the big, guys, New Year's Eve hat. I'd be honking the noisemaker, the blower, and then you had the thing that you put in your hand and you spun it around. I mean, it made the most annoying noise. My sister had that as well. She'd have on the tiara, and that was like the coolest thing. We'd come out on New Year's morning and it'd be sitting in the chair almost every year, and we got the biggest kick out of that. So that's not a huge memory because when you're a little kid, you don't celebrate too much. But I do remember like getting those hats was like getting a bike on Christmas. And I don't even know why. It was the cheapest gift ever. Okay, so let's move forward in life and talk about some of the other New Year's Eves that I celebrated. And I did spend a lot of New Year's Eve, again, at the roller skating rink that I ran for years and years, all through high school and into college. And so New Year's Eve was always a big, big deal. It's Spinning Wheels roller rink. We had kind of a system that we did every year. Either we would do an all-night skate, which would go from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. Oh, those were rough. But a lot of times we'd do just a 7 p.m. till 1 a.m. session. We'd usually charge about double the normal price because we'd have extra stuff. We'd have you got 2 slices of Papa John's pizza and a soda with that or whatever. But what we always did, and again, I always played the music because it made the night go faster if I was DJing, and I enjoyed doing that. I would always do, and this is so, if you know me, this is so kind of my personality. I always wanted to be Mr. Microphone as a kid, and I always listened to talk radio. But when I listened to music radio, I loved listening to Casey Kasem's Top 40 on the way to church on Sunday mornings. And then if you got lucky, if the preacher wasn't long-winded that day, you might get out before the number one song at noon and find out what the number one song was. And that was a big deal back in the 80s, right? To know like, oh, what's your song? Your favorite song. Is it number 7 this week? Did it move up? Did it move down? Did it drop off the charts? What are the new entries and so forth? So what I would do is I would buy the Billboard magazine, actually the physical magazine. It was big. It was bigger than a normal size mag. And I would play during that night the top. Usually I started like at 30. Like I would go from 30 to 1 as we got closer to midnight. And I would try to hit number 1 around 11:30. And then from 11:30 to 12, I'd play just all kinds of crazy music. And then what we did at midnight for the kids at the skating rink, which was always fun and very dangerous, I should say, because I can't believe a lot of the stuff that we did. I mean, we talked about this on a previous episode of Mike in the Midwest. We did the Chickapoo raffle. So anything was really fair game, right? We brought in a live chicken, set it on the skate counter, and let the chicken poop into a box. And some kid won, $50. I know, right? We did everything at that rate. No wonder it's a Gold's Gym now and it got knocked over. Anyway, so what we always did, we had a balloon drop, of course, couldn't do fireworks. That'd have been awesome. But we had a balloon drop at midnight. So we got these big net things. And I just remember this was such a pain in the butt. So we'd have to get up there into the ceiling we actually had a rolling scaffold that we had for the skating rink because we played a lot of hockey in our skating rink and the lights would get broken quite often. So about once a month, we'd have to get out the rolling scaffold and all over the rink, all over the floor, we'd have to put in new light bulbs and change things and get pucks out of the ceiling and all kinds of stuff. But we'd hang this net and it was always like a harrowing event because I remember more than once I was on top of the scaffold with my skates on because I was too lazy to take off my skates. And there was many of us too. And plus the kids that were, it was just a bunch of kids running the skating rink. So we'd always screw around. Somebody have you up there. And I mean, the ceiling in our skating rink was probably about 25 feet high. It was not close to the ground. And so, you'd be up there changing a light bulb or hanging this net for the New Year's Eve session and popping in these balloons, stuffing them in. And of course, somebody would, screw around with you and move the scaffold. And like, it's a wonder we didn't get killed. Because I mean, the floor was just maple. It was hard as a rock. It was a great floor, but you wouldn't want to fall onto it. Anyway, so we put all these balloons in the netting. I would guess maybe 200-300 balloons. We had to we spent forever blowing these up. They obviously weren't helium because you wanted them to drop. So we just blew them up, tied them off. And what we did was, and this is where it got fun and also got extremely dangerous, is that in select balloons, we would have free admission passes. In some balloons, we'd have free soda passes. In some balloons, they'd have a free hot dog or free nachos or, 2-for-1 coupons. But in some balloons, they had a $5 bill. And in some balloons, they had a $10 bill. And in a few balloons, they had a $20 bill. And I think one had a 50. Okay, so right there, we've taken the stakes on the balloon drop up like 8 notches, right? I mean, we've definitely made it a competition. It's not just a fun event anymore. It is now a crazy competition. So how do we do the balloon drop? Okay, so we have all these balloons in the middle of the skating rink. And we had awesome stuff at the skate. I got our owner. He was very cool. I got him to retrofit the skating rink at one point. We had 2 fog machines with holes in the ceiling. So I'd hit the fog machines. I mean, we could just have that place where you could not see within about 30 seconds. Cause of course, he gave me the checkbook and I bought the biggest fog machines they had in the catalog. I mean, this thing looked like San Francisco's Candlestick Park on its worst day. You'd hit the button, you'd hear, whoa, and then this fog would come out of the ceilings at both ends of the skating rink, this big pipe, and this stuff would not dissipate. It was crazy. We had laser lights. We had what were called the beamers on each end. They would shoot these other crazy beams. We had, of course, those like lights that every skating rink has with the different colored bulbs that go in different patterns and so forth. I mean, we had like the big siren lights on each end. I mean, so we got all the kids out on the floor right now. Kid, I can't believe we did this. So the rule was every kid had to have their back to the wall. So we had them on the perimeter of the skating rink, and our rink was a big, big rectangle. So obviously, if you were on one of the far ends, you were at a disadvantage. But if you were on one of the long sides of the rectangle, you were closer to the center. And so we would count it down. I had a wireless mic, so I'd be out in the middle. I had somebody else up in the booth so they could hit the music, the old Lang Syne techno version, as soon as midnight hit. So I'd be out there, hey, let's count it down. 10, 9. We had like a couple of the other workers. They each had a rope or something to pull from each end of the net when we hit 0, 3, 2, 1. And so Happy New Year. Welcome to, 1989 or what have 1991, whatever it was. The kids on the end pull the rope, the balloons and the balloons didn't drop at first, but we yanked them. We pulled on the net. We got it. I think we had to hook it one year with a hockey stick. That's one thing about our skating rink. We had millions of hockey sticks everywhere. If we had to fix something, it was usually with a hockey stick. Either hit it or pulled on it, hooked it, whatever. But anyway, midnight hits. We pull the strings. The balloons finally fall. My God, chaos ensued. Okay, so we told them, everybody, when the balloons fall, nobody gets up and skates. Everybody just kind of crawls out to the middle. You grab a couple balloons, pop them, and get your prize. And see, because some of them are empty. Maybe you don't get a prize. Maybe you do. We told everybody, and I told them that many times on the mic, okay, we're going to do this as a teacher, right? We're going to do this in an orderly fashion. When the balloons drop, just come out, grab a couple. Don't get up and skate. Just kind of crawl to the middle, grab a couple of balloons, see what you got. We'll all, get ready to sing Auld Lang Syne after, and that'll be it. Nope, dude. Balloons fall. Everybody jumps up. It's mass chaos. Like people with skates, people getting run over, fingers getting run over. The good skaters are like getting 8 balloons. The kids that are slow are getting 0. It was, and of course, I'm in the middle of this thing with a microphone, right? I'm like, hey, take it easy. Nobody's listening. The person in the DJ booth is cranking Auld Lang Syne. You can't hear me anymore. It was nuts, but I would not. It was so nobody went to the hospital that I can remember. We didn't get sued, and the rink is no longer there. So yes, we had many, many New Year's Eves like that. And it was one of those things where as a kid doing your kid job, this was so much better than, I worked at Chick-fil-A for 3 weeks. That was okay. It paid a little more, but you know what? getting to be, I mean, I felt like Dick Clark in Times Square, in Florissant, Missouri. I was in the middle of mass chaos and stuff going down that could be slightly dangerous, but we were having a good time. So the kids would get their stuff. Finally, we swept the floor, got all the balloon parts out of the floor, continued to skate till 1:00 in the morning and had a good time. So I did that many, many times at the skating rink on New Year's Eve, probably 5 or 6 times. Now, of course, I've also mentioned that my dad moved out of being a drummer and he started his own mobile disc jockey service when I was in middle school. He started it. And so what he would do is he would DJ wedding receptions mostly. We also did like proms and homecoming dances, any kind of, Christmas parties for corporations, so forth. One of the craziest places I ever DJ'd was at Lambert St. Louis International Airport. I DJ'd in the brand new terminal for Southwest Airlines that I now fly out of. When Southwest opened their new terminal, they had a big party and I had to get clearance and so forth. But I DJ'd down in where they load the luggage, and just like for all the Southwest employees in St. Louis, big old bash. It was crazy. Thinking back on that. But anyway, back to New Year's Eve. I would, many times also work for my dad other years as I got older, and he'd have me DJ different parties for New Year's Eve. And the good thing about New Year's Eve was my dad charged double for a New Year's Eve party as to what like a wedding reception would cost, right? Because it's a premium night. It's New Year's Eve. And so he charged double, but the good news for me and all of our DJs, we had about 7 or 8 systems. And so the other DJs that went out, we all got paid double on New Year's Eve. So typically on a 4-hour show that we would put on, you might get paid $150 on a normal night, but you got $300 for 4 hours, for New Year's Eve, which, think about this. Like when you're in college, dude, that is big bucks. I mean, you want to be with your friends on Friday and Saturday nights. I never was. I always worked on Friday and Saturday nights, but it's because my dad paid us well. And how hard is it to play music off CDs, right? It's a pretty sweet gig. Anyway, so the one New Year's Eve I'll share here, because I know we're going a little long and people have stuff to do, get ready for 2021 coming in, is I DJ'd a big New Year's Eve party. It was at a Catholic church in Ferguson, Missouri. Okay, so I lived in Florissant. Ferguson was the next town over. And you might know Ferguson from all the riots back in 2014. I also, I went to church in Ferguson. I taught for the Ferguson Florissant School District. So the combined communities where the kids came to school together. So this was about 15 minutes from my house, Ferguson, Missouri, on Florissant Road. And it was this old Catholic church. Now, I will say one thing about St. Louis. There are a lot of Catholic churches in St. Louis, especially in the town I grew up in, Florissant, Ferguson, very Catholic. And the Catholics love to have parties because, see, I'm Baptist. And the thing about being Baptist is you really shouldn't drink or you shouldn't dance. Those like 2 things that are, putting you on the highway to HE double hockey sticks growing up. I dance a little and I've had a drink or 2, in moderation. But I mean, the Catholics, we're always envious because they had the best parties. They had awesome, great community. They had great sports leagues and stuff like that. Great sports venues at their churches and so forth. So I was going to do this. I can't remember the name of the church. I wish I could. Anyway, it's probably best that I don't say the name of the church, but it was in Ferguson, Missouri. And it was kind of a typical party, right? Everybody comes in and all these people are there. And the Catholic churches always had like draft beer for soccer games and, all the parties. They have, they had like a little snack bar, tons of draft beer. But the thing was, throughout this party, and all the parishioners come in and they're dancing and, I'm thinking this is a great party, right? Because the thing about being a DJ is if people don't dance, it's boring. Like you hated doing it. No, these people came in and they were getting it. They were out on the dance floor. They were having a good time. And of course, again, I was playing the top hits from the year and I was playing older stuff, all the standards people dance to. What I remember was they had attendance prizes. And so I was giving away all these attendance prizes. They gave me tickets and door prizes. So I'd call numbers throughout the night. Hey, you won a steak dinner to this steakhouse. You get Outback. You get, the car wash is giving away a year's worth of car wash. I was giving away the craziest stuff, but it was all donated to the church. So at about 11 o'clock, they tell me, okay, you're going to give out the grand prize. And I'm like, oh, what's the grand prize? Right. I mean, when I used to DJ, I'd wear a tux. I'd have tails. I was always dressed up. That was like my standard uniform for DJing. My dad made us all wear tuxes because we did a lot of wedding receptions. So anyway, we get back to it. It's time for the grand prize. Now, not at midnight, it's around 11 o'clock because they want to make sure they give it out before the new year. We do the countdown and so forth. So they come rolling in, and I am not lying. I don't know if they've done this at your church or any kind of community events you've had. They roll in. I'm not kidding. It was a full-size wheelbarrow. So you know what a wheelbarrow looks like, right? For like doing work outside, like hauling dirt and stuff. And it wasn't a small one. It was a full-size wheelbarrow full of liquor. I mean, this thing had Jack Daniels. And again, I was bad. I don't know much liquor. It had like Jack Daniels in it. It had Fireball. It had vodka. It had tequila. I mean, anything that could mess you up, all kinds of like cases of beer. This thing was jam packed. I mean, it wasn't just in the wheelbarrow, it's stacked up on top, and they had it wrapped with like saran wrap so that it wouldn't fall out. They roll this thing in, everybody's going crazy. Everybody wants to win the wheelbarrow full of booze. Anyway, so I call the number, and I mean, everybody's like on the edge of their seats, like it's the Powerball. So I call the number, and this dude comes up, and I mean, he is the perfect guy. I didn't know any of these people, but it seemed to me he was the perfect guy to win the wheelbarrow full of booze. He is so excited. You'd have thought he won a house, right? He was like, oh, he grabbed the mic from me. Like, I'd like to thank all of the parishioners. I'd like to thank everybody who donated to this cause. I'm like, give me back my mic, my wireless mic. I'm in charge here. You don't get to make the speech, but it was all in fun. It was a good time. Anyway, like I said, it's 11 o'clock. Well, so I guess he was supposed to just like take the wheelbarrow and put it in his car and then load the booze in his car, right, and take him home. Nope. This guy cracks open this saran wrap, and everybody starts drinking this stuff. Okay, so this is like at 11. All I know is so we're still dancing, the bass is pumping, we're having a good old party down in the community room in the community center at the church. Great party. I'm like, this is awesome. It goes till 1 a.m. I do the countdown at midnight, right? 10, 9, 8, I got Auld Lang Syne techno version ready to go, just like I always have. So we can just party right into whatever it was, like 1994 or something. This guy who had been enjoying his savoring the spoils of his victory back at 11 o'clock. He pops out from somewhere. I don't even know where he came from, but we're jamming away. It's like, 12:05. We're celebrating the new year. Dude comes out in his underwear. That's all he's got on. And those were not even on for that long. I'm just saying, dude, that's when the party got out of hand and we had to kind of shut things down. I didn't even make it till 1 o'clock in the morning. His friends had to help him, but it was a New Year's Eve to remember. This guy enjoyed his prize a little too much, and I had a story for the ages for DJing on New Year's Eve. So you got to be careful. If you're a DJ, not in 2020, this year it's not going to happen. But if you are a mobile DJ and you're getting back out there celebrating in 2021, moving into 22, always be careful if they roll out the wheelbarrow of booze, because while that can make for a great story and an awesome gig, it can also lead to crazy stuff happening in short amounts of time. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. Some of those crazy stories from my New Year's Eve in the past. I have others, but we have other years to discuss these kind of things. I just want to wrap up this show saying that 2020 was an extremely difficult year for many, many of us. It was difficult around here. It was harrowing, but we made it through, right? 2021 is a mere hours away, and I'm super optimistic. 21 has always been my lucky number. It's the year my grandparents were both born. When I grew up, I was a huge fan of Roger Clemens. He was number 21 for the Boston Red Sox. And so I've always worn 21 on my jerseys for hockey and for baseball. And Paige carried on that tradition. Nothing makes you more proud as a parent than when Paige said, I'm going to wear your number in soccer. And she did. And she was number 21. And Mallory has been number 21 in things. So, that's the coolest thing. So 21, I think, is going to be a banner year. We have a lot of hurt to go through here early, but we're going to make it. But by the end of 21, I think we're going to just be dancing around. It's going to be the roaring 20s all again. But as we close out, Again, thank you for being here on Patreon. I didn't know if the Be Our Guest podcast would get to see its 13th birthday. It sure will. We've gotten to improve things. Hopefully the background looks a little better now. We have, better video, and we've had more shows. We got to have a good time in April and May, each night getting together, talking live and taking calls. And it's been a year, but it hasn't been a terrible year. It's been a year of new experiences. So let's make 2021 awesome. I wish you the best. I hope you have fun with your family tonight, celebrating however you celebrate, whether it's, cocktail weenies and 7-Up, or, maybe having a tequila at midnight, whatever it is, watching the ball drop in an empty Times Square. This has been a crazy year, but we've made it, and we're going to make 2021 awesome. So I wish you safety. I wish you extreme happiness in 21, and I wish you awesome health. That's the most important thing. So thanks for being a friend. Thanks for supporting everything we do. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. Have a happy new year. Happy 2021. And we'll see you real soon. All right. Crazy. I never know where these are going, but there they are. Hey, Herschel. Happy New Year, buddy. All right, I'm going to get out of here and edit this thing up, put it on the feed, and talk to you guys later. Hope to see you on Instagram Live tonight. We'll do some fun stuff. All right, see you later. Bye-bye.